Welcome to Shareholder Q&A, a production of AGORACOM in which we have shareholders submit questions so that their CEOs can answer them live in the video with me. With us today, for the first time ever, our inaugural Q&A with NuRan Wireless and Francis Letourneau, CEO of the company. For those new to the story, the company trades under NUR in Canada, NRRWF in the United States, and for our friends in Europe and Germany, 1RN. This is also our inaugural Q&A from Greece. That's why I'm a little more casual and the sound might be a little off, but this is important enough to get it done from Greece, Francis. Usually this is where I go into a bit of an intro about the company, but everybody here is a shareholder. They've read the corporate update and they've submitted these amazing questions. So we're going to go right into that. But before we dive into that, the corporate update itself had these pretty nice 2024, 2025 expectations. On the revenue side, about 20 million for 2024, 50 million for 2025. And on the EBITDA side, 6 million and 25 million, respectively. Where do you get the confidence for those numbers? Because those are really specific and your quote backs it up.
With the financing in place, George, we are able to make it happen. Of course, it has been a desert crossing, quite heavy. We're reaching the end of it, but the EIB and DFI2 loan is going to ignite a lot of those numbers. And those numbers are only to deliver a portion of the current backlog, which is 2,500 sites in those 2 years. But we have an objective of delivering 10,000 sites. So can you imagine what the number would look like once we achieve our 10,000 site objective? But we just wanted to be realistic. What we have in the plan right now to close EIB and DFI2 loan agreement, some equity will come at the African structure level. And based on that, those are the number we can achieve, and we are extremely confident we can achieve those numbers.
And I've been around long enough to know when companies just throwing numbers out there and just trying to impress people. But I loved your quote, and when refer to it, our internal forecasting has been reviewed and vetted by the DFIs and other strategic institutions and demonstrate a validation of our business model. Based on our latest expectation in terms of timeline, the execution of the loan agreement with the DFIs will propel NuRan to build towers at an aggressive pace and fulfill our 2024 and 2025 expectations.
Voilà.
That's
exactly.
really specific. That's not just George is throwing a number in the air.
No.
I love that confidence, and I hope shareholders see that as well.
And those are not pink glasses number. Those are number that we use when we submit financial model to our debt players and equity players. So we're not painting a wonderful portrait of what the future is going to look like. That's the reality based on the growth of the current sites and the growth of revenue and penetration rate. So this is back to reality. What are the numbers that we can achieve? So we are extremely confident that we can meet those targets. But of course, the financing will be key to the success of this company, as like tower companies, we're building assets and run on revenue from those assets for lifetime. In fact, I was doing comparison this week of where tower companies were trading at today in terms of multiples of EBITDA, and they're trading 5 to 14 times EBITDA right now from the calculation I've done. So you can imagine that this 25 million EBITDA, it's only for 2,500 sites. Then if you do all the multiplication and you go to 10,000 sites built and so on and so forth, those are the type of number you can aim at. So we're extremely confident that we can reach those numbers. Again, financing is key to get there. We have put together the supply chain, the staff, and the local contractors to meet those objectives. That's also important to talk about, because it's not only getting financing, is to have the back office to be able to deliver those numbers. And this, we've spent a lot of times doing the assessment of the different suppliers from various countries in order to get to those numbers, but we are extremely confident we can meet them.
And I like the reality, the holiday schedule in Europe. I'm in Europe right now. I know how it is. It just shuts down in August. Everyone's on vacation.
Yeah.
So you have to wait that out as well. And some shareholders might be a little anxious and want to get to the finish line, but that's a reality. But you actually say in the corporate update, you expect the DFI loan to be done in Q3.
Yes, and actually, even if they're on vacation, we still have access to the group of people working with us. So I was on the phone with our account manager from EIB yesterday. We were solving a couple of things, addressing a couple more stuff that has not been addressed. So no, they are responsive. They want to make things happen. I'm calling it closing agenda, but we've put together a plan to get to closing or signature in September. So we're working along those lines, and everybody's working along those lines to make it happen, including the legal firm working on the project, the contractor validating our suppliers. And so it's a lot of work, but look, we're all dedicated to make it work, even them and all parties involved in this project evaluation.
And that's where I'll add my experience. I've been doing this for over 25 years. These kind of companies, they don't have time to waste. It doesn't guarantee everything is going to go perfectly, but they're doing this for a reason. They're not sitting over across the pond just having fun with this or being wishy-washy. They're very serious about getting this done.
Yeah.
But it is big. They have due diligence processes. There are multiple parties, so one has to wait for the other, and sometimes then the other has to wait for the first one. But it's a serious group of people, and serious people don't waste time unless they believe in something.
Also to add to what you're saying, you're absolutely right. We are also dealing with the government bodies in those respective countries. They are not going at the same speed we go. Sometimes we make requests, take sometimes 4 to 6 weeks to get responses. So it's a tough. Those are tough conditions to manage. But look, this is the nature of the beast. This is the type of money we need, cheap from the cost perspective in terms, especially on securities and so on and so forth. And it's a major stamp to our business. Once we're done with everything, the rest will go pretty smooth. With the new debt players, the equity players, the reliability on EIB and DFI2 due diligence is going to be used by the others. So therefore, we will save a lot of times on future financing, equity and or debt. So that's the first one is always the hardest one to get, George. It's sad.
Always.
It's sad. It has put us into a situation where we can't go as fast as what we would like. But once done, you see the numbers that we can get within a reasonable time frame.
Well, in another interview, what I want to do, because the first thing I thought about when I read your quote was to build Tyro's aggressive pace and fulfill our 2024 and 25 expectations. And I started thinking to myself, I wonder what that spreadsheet looks like in 26, 27, 28. So we'll save that conversation for next time, but that's where my mind went. So with that in mind, Francis, I want to thank all the shareholders took time to submit some pretty great questions. And what I love about this is you put out a detailed corporate update, but this fills the holes. It's because some investors are saying, hey, we still want to address some specific things here. So let's get right to it. For everyone, all the shareholders, what I want to tell you is I'm presenting these chronologically. They haven't been altered or anything like that. I'm presenting them chronologically. What I will do, if investor A asks a question about a specific topic and then investor C asks the same question below, we will acknowledge the question, thank the investor, but we're not going to repeat the questions over and over again. And naturally, as you can imagine, there are definitely some recurring themes. But with that in mind, let's get straight to it. First one is from First Graphene. Thank you, First Graphene. And their question is with respect to the deferred salaries. Since it's contemplated to convert the deferred salaries into shares, could you please further elaborate when this is going to take place? And most importantly, at what price? Obviously, your interest may be to get a price as low as possible. I don't believe that personally. While retail investors may want a higher price. Thanks, if you could answer that question.
It's absolutely the opposite, George. So we will, if we do, because that's an option, because I've offered to convert a significant portion of my deferred salaries into shares. So that's first demonstrate my commitment to the company. And the other thing is that we will not get any benefit or advantages as we sit on such a material news for the company. So no, if we do, it will be after we announce the signature of EIB and DFI2 loan agreement for sure.
Yeah, that almost itself guarantees you're not going to try and cherry pick the lowest possible number.
No.
And by the way, given your confidence in the future, Francis, you're not all that concerned about that because you have big plans, big valuation, big revenue. You don't need to cherry pick the bottom given where you think the company's going.
Exactly.
Another interesting question, and it's a little bit harder, but it's a valid question. Sometimes first, him or her, I'm not sure, but I'm going to say he. He's going to say the last 2 years have seen some disappointments. We've missed some tower projections. We missed some financing timelines and so on and so forth. Why should investors believe in the answers provided in this Q&A? Not that you'd be lying about it, but why should they have more confidence in the answers you're providing here, this Q&A, versus answers you provided before?
Okay, first of all, the validation of our business model, I think, is extremely important. We are signing deals with two of the largest mobile network operator in Africa, namely MTN and Orange. They wouldn't sign nor accept a company like us to do press releases if they were not confident that we can deliver. The main thing is related to financing. So when I read this question and it's on everybody's lips, and when you talk about promise, we're disclosing or providing expectations at the time we get information. So say, for example, last August, we were in discussion with EIB to finalize this loan agreement in September. Therefore, because we had this information, we provided not only and some kind of expectations of when we should be signing this, but also based on that, we will then be able to build sites and to deliver the results that people were expecting. But as I said at the intro, our company is heavily or I would say intensively seeking financing in order to get those assets up, in order to generate revenue. So financing is key to what we're doing here. If we want to do fast, but it doesn't mean that we don't have a business if we don't get those large financing, because we're still putting site up as today. We're generating revenue, and look, Cameroon is just about to be fully independent, generating sufficient cash from the current operation to not require any cash coming from Canada, and take the money there in order to pay for the new sites to be built. So bottom line, back to this, yes, we've missed what you say promise, but those were expectations that we've put together because everybody wants to see what the expectations are. So we have created, so let's say we apologize for being maybe too optimistic, but look, we are a publicly traded company. We need to be transparent. We need to give the information at the time we have it. And but we've missed some targets, especially based on financing. And this is where most of all the delays have been coming from. But we're working heavily and diligently to make it work. And everybody's committed to this signature in September. So once this is done, you will see that those promises and expectation will convert into reality, and you will see the number that we've put together taking place. And not only when you do this, and you know that, George, when you do financial outlook into a press release, then the thing you need to do is to report in every freaking MD&A where you stand with those things. So you put yourself at risk. You need to put those balls on the table and to say, okay, here is what we expect. So bottom line, we're committed to make it happen. Financing is key to what we want to achieve here. We're sorry that it took so long, but when it comes, the expected outcome are going to be huge for everybody.
And the important element I want to add on to this, Francis, again, I've been around for 25 years, and let me tell you something. I'd be calling you on it if I thought you were talking gibberish and just dancing around it. But the fact of the matter is, you're not picking dates out of thin air on your own and say, let me tell the shareholders at that date. This is, those decisions are made in consultation, in concert with your partners, with everybody. Look at AGORACOM. There's we hope to have our new website launched back in February. We've told a number of people it's going to be February. Then we told people it's going to be April, and that was the best information I have from our engineers. But you know what? We've run into a couple of issues, and sometimes that happens. And I'll mention this and move on to the next question. I watched Elon Musk's race to space, his SpaceX documentary on Netflix. They thought they're going to have their rockets ready at every moment, but failure number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, until they got it all together for number 5, and then away they went. So the fact of the matter is, when you're going into new territory, we're not serving hot dogs here. When you go into new territory, you don't always get the dates right. But the fact of the matter is, you do have to give all the shareholders some dates, because if you didn't, everyone would be complaining, why aren't you giving us dates? So thanks for that detailed answer. Wine, not beer, is the shareholder asked the next question, who says, good morning. What changed from the Form 7 statement that the debt restructure would be done by the middle of July to now saying it'll be done in the coming weeks? What are the roadblocks with regards to restructuring the debts?
It's purely negotiation. So we're dealing with 3 short-term debt, 2 debenture, and promissory notes that we need to restructure. So we're dealing with all of them at the same time to extend the maturity date, providing NuRan the ability to repay those loans next year, or potentially later during the process. So bottom line, it takes a while, but we are lucky. We are dealing with a strategic satellite partner on one side and some long-term financing partner on the other side. So what is taking long is the negotiation on the terms, but also carving out all potential default that could have an impact on EIB. So that's the only thing that is taking time, but we just want to have the cleanest and smoothest deal on the table possible for us in terms of repayment plan, and removing all potential conflicting clause with EIB. So that's the only thing that is taking time, but we're aiming to have those deals signed quite soon. So it's not a problem on this side.
The next question, I've asked this question before of companies as well. With so many delays in receiving EIB, does the company have a drop dead? I've actually used that exact term. Does the company have a drop dead date where it says, hey, at this point, let's just go pursue alternative sources of funding because this EIB is not going to work out for us? So is there a drop dead date in your heads there where you have to maybe move on?
The answer is no. There's no drop dead date. We'll continue to pursue EIB, but we are pursuing other financing sources. Equity at the NuRan African level. So we've not been able to discuss in the past about the structure, George, but you have NuRan Canada, the parent company, owner at 100% of NuRan Africa Holding located in Mauritius, and that African entity owns 100% of each subsidiaries across Africa. So we are looking at several funding sources at the country level, continent level, but not at the parent level to avoid as much as possible dilution. We're looking for equity, mezzanine debt at some point, shareholder loan, that kind of structure. So we have multiple tracks ongoing as we speak. My presence at the CEO forum a couple of weeks ago shed some light on a lot of interest from a lot of people. Groups like Africa 50, AIM, Convergence Partner. So all of those impact funds investing heavily in Africa infrastructure, they've shown interest. We have a list of high net worth individuals that wants to make a huge impact in Africa. So there's maybe a list of 50 groups with whom we are dealing with. Let's say the resumption of the financing model with the number that you have seen in the press release have been shown to a lot of people. There's a lot of people that are in the process of doing a initial due diligence in view of coming back with a term sheet. So everything is progressing. So EIB is, of course, has been major to what we want to achieve, but we're not stopping there. We have a lot of funding sources that we are looking after as we speak, even another debt package from another group moving forward.
Yeah, and Warren's saying it's not just a lot of interest just because there's a great business opportunity for others as well, but there's a big humanitarian and a big policy push behind this, because the world wants to see the developing world advance, and they can't do it unless they've got access to mobile and internet. So
And
so
George, on top of it, we have 10,000 sites to build. Why saying kiss it goodbye EIB? No, because it took too long. If it will not, but if it takes another 6 months and we have another source of funding coming in, why would we say no to another 27 million coming in 6 months? No, we will take everything we need to get this growth curve as high as possible, to have this really hockey stick curve that we can envision for the company, and maybe go faster than what we wanted. So no, there's no drop dead. We're continuing to work at some of our competition took 2 years to close a smaller deal than this one. And that's it. So that's the nature of the beast. Unfortunately, we thought that we would be able to close it in December with all the goodwill in the world. We couldn't do it. And right now we need to negotiate with the fact that it's delayed. And but we're approaching the end with the closing agenda that we've put together a couple of weeks ago.
well, the collapse of FTX didn't help anybody back in October. I mean, that just drove everything down, including Tesla stock went down to $100. It's now sitting almost 300, but that didn't help at all. By the way, I want to add something that I didn't say earlier. When this is all finally done and you got the first one in place, you've got the mechanisms and everything's lined up, man, you've got a great moat around your business, because it's going to be that much harder now for GeorgeCom Wireless to come in and be a competitor, because I've got to go through all of that, and you've already gone through all of that. So I just wanted to add that in there. And final question from Why Not Beer is, I'd like to see more data regarding revenue per site per month. The network as a service revenue is missing in the Q1 23 MDA, and it was in other ones previous. So please provide some more transparency if you can on this topic.
Good point. We have started to do tower updates monthly, and probably starting Q4, we will start putting some metrics in there. We need the permission, of course, of the operator. This is what's dragging from us providing information about this, because by doing this, you also provide information about the operator themselves, and those guys reports to the regulator and so on and so forth. So it's sketchy, but we will try to provide as much information as possible on the tower updates when we hit Q4. So that's my objective. If we can't do it, then we'll communicate why, and we'll try to give you metrics that will allow you to gain confidence in those revenue streams.
Speaking of metrics, the next questions come from Big Teether. Hello, what milestones are required to be achieved for Francis to receive performance shares, and how many? Thank you.
Actually, that I don't have the counts. I got 1.9 million shares up to now. Most of the milestone were related to contracts. The remaining ones are financing, revenue, EBITDA, and contract related. But when you look at the milestone themselves, and by the way, those are available on CDAR, so you can look at the CDAR reporting on my contract. It's publicly available. But all of those milestone has been put together to increase company valuation. So when you hit more contract, your stock price shouldn't go down as it has done in the last 2 years. Your stock price should go up. And when you get financing, same thing. When you get revenue, same thing, and EBITDA. So the milestones are set to create company value, to create value for shareholders, and value for the CEO as well. And it was built to make sure that I have skin in the game. more than just 100 hours a week of my time working,
I
because
believe that.
I wake up at 4 to 5 in the morning because I want to be set at the African time zones to make sure that everything is aligned and properly done. And then Canada is not stopping at noon, right? It continues to 6 and 7. So it's long days of work and sometimes over the weekend. But those milestones were mainly there to create value for shareholders, and of course by ricochet to me on the long run. So financing, revenue, EBITDA, and contract related milestone, you can look at those milestone into CDAR, which is a public information.
Yeah, and those are all milestones that shareholders are going to be very happy with. So if and when they happen,
Should,
they'll be more than happy with those performance shares.
especially, yes.
Justin Ottawa asks, what do the subsidiary investors need to see before moving forward? Is it towers? Is it the EIB signature? Is it higher revenue? What are they waiting for?
Okay, so this is an interesting question, okay, because that's the key point, and this is what has been dragging equity investor at the African subsidiary level. The DRC contract is quite important compared to the backlog of the company. So we now have 4,600 sites under contract. 2,000 of them come from DRC. So the exposure of DRC is quite high. And so far, let's say the sampling in DRC has been quite low. So what the equity investor wants to see is ability to build tower in a fastly manner in DRC, because they don't care about Cameroon. Cameroon has proven their track record, and the rest is kind of less important. But DRC, due to the weight in the backlog, DRC needs to have a proven track record of revenue growth, ARPU, penetration rate, and they want to see it coming. So the new build will allow us to demonstrate that capability. You can deploy a couple of the sites within a reasonable time frame with certain numbers of teams. So we are currently reporting weekly to those equity players. And once they are feeling satisfied, which I think we will get really soon, probably September, same time frame as EIB, because we're accumulating the data as we speak, and as we will progress, we will provide those reporting. Just to give you an example, the revenues have grown since we started doing commercial activities in DRC, which was sometimes in May. The revenues have grown 39.24%. I mean, the revenue of the site, because the NuRan revenue sits on a minimum guaranteed amount, but the revenue growth have shown 39.24% growth over the 10-week period starting May. So this is adding to what the numbers are for DRC, and once they feel more confident, more people will come to the table. So this is what they're expecting. Revenue curve going up. They don't see a higher, they don't need to see a higher revenue. They need to see a growing curve of the revenue, ARPU, and penetration rate, and our ability to be able to deliver site in a quickly manner.
Yeah, and then just keep multiplying that. Just keep multiplying that. That's it.
Exactly.
And on that note, the second question from them is, and you've kind of touched on it, but maybe this one could be like a sniper shot answer. If funding were to occur now, how many sites are picked out and ready to build immediately?
It goes with the acquisition. Actually, 122 and 118 sites in DRC and Cameroon are ready to go. So we've done the site identification, site acquisition has been performed, site survey has been done. We're performing the environmental social impact assessment report that need to be submitted to EIB and the DFI2. I'm using DFI2 because we can't mention their name until it's signed, George, so that's why. But so yes, so once we are ready to go, we have the financing in place, we can do it. But we have a list in DRC, we have a list of 730 sites already that we are working on. in order to get going. And in Cameroon, we already have the balance of the 242 sites. And in all countries, we have submitted lists coming from the operator. Based on that, we have tools to do the let's say the virtual validation of those numbers, and if the site makes sense. And based on that, after that, we do the next step, which is to survey the site that are pre-selected locally in the field, and we're getting there. But the first 240 for DRC and Cameroon are ready to go.
And I think you just answered the next question, but and maybe you're anticipating it. Please elaborate as much as you can as far as keeping the inventory flowing and to keep the pace of the site acquisition and site builds. I think it sounds like you just answered that.
I answered that, but if you want to maintain the pace, the inventory also touch the in-country inventory, but we also have inventory here with our satellite partner in terms of equipment. They have inventory sitting in Israel waiting for us to make orders. Same for the power side. From the tower point of view, there's no limitation in terms of how fast we can build towers. So everything has been settled in terms of future inventory to be delivered fast in order for us to grow our numbers quite quick. But converting the inventory into site live, this is ready to go now.
Last question from Justin, Ottawa. Why does a debt settlement have to be concurrent with the EIB signature? It would seem that having that out of the way before would be beneficial to all parties. Is this a stipulation from EIB or a stipulation from the lenders?
No. No stipulation from anybody. We're trying to settle those short-term debt just before. Just because there are current events of default that need to be carved out in order to welcome EIB loan agreements. So that's why it needs to be settled before, but it's not contingent to one another. So it's two things that are dealt separately.
And great answer. And by the way, I'm going to say the depth of your detail in these answers are fantastic, Francis. This is exactly what all shareholders should have, and not all shareholders do in other companies. Kudos to you. That was a great answer. You at me is the next shareholder, and they say you wrote the first official client for the XG solution will be NuRan Cameroon and Minta, and is planned to be rolled out end of Q3 this year. So yes. My question is, has this happened? Is Lightcell XG being rolled out for the third quarter?
Really good question. The first product delivered will be October, so just beyond the Q3 2023. First of all, for the Marshall Island, they're not ready yet to receive those goods. They have to perform some work from a core element point of view, so they will be ready to roll out sometimes in October, so there's no rush for us to deliver now. Regarding NuRan Cameroon, we are looking at the sites where we want to see the XG running, and but it will likely be in October, and the products still need to be couple of fixes in terms of certification. We're in the certification process now. So once this is done, we will be rolling out, but likely that those two will be delivered so we can start accumulating data if our XG is as performant as what we thought it would. So thank you. That's a good question. I love this question. I would have liked XG to go way faster, but as engineering, developing those products is quite complex. It involves a lot of parties. This product will be supporting 2G, 3G, and 4G at the same time. So you see the level of complexity. Doing one 3G product is quite heavy. So now you need to support 3 of those things and multiple bands as well. So it's a complex product, but this one is going to rock. We have a lot of interest from a lot of players already.
The next question from you at me, we've already dealt with. It's regarding financing at NuRan Africa through the Mauritius entity. We've answered that one, so and that's going to happen now on the remaining ones, but it's one accomplished that. But you wanted to mention that you and me asked an interesting question. Why have you not completed a small private placement to the company? And then the follow-up was, Many growth companies do PPs followed by another at even higher level and follow up with an IPO. I'm not sure what that means, but and how it relates to you guys. But the second question, in addition, why you haven't done a PP is, would NuRan ever consider listing the Mauritius company on a London exchange?
So everything will run under NuRan Canada, listed on CSE. We would like to uplist and do a list in the near future once we have better numbers, because right now it doesn't make sense for a company with $4 million of revenue and that kind of losses, and no views to uplist at this stage, because it will just require us to do more reporting, more this, more that, have more costs. So does not make sense for us to do it at this stage. There will be no benefit. So that answers the uplisting or dual listing. Related to private placement. So you heard me saying, not you, George, but the investor several times, that I wanted to avoid dilution as much as possible at the parent level. Hence the reason why we wanted to raise all capital, or most of the capital, at the African level, because we could get a higher valuation using this vehicle than the current currency that we have, which is our stock price or current market cap that we have in Canada. So if we are to do a small PP at 50 cents, the dilution will be huge, even for $2 million investment. So we're trying to avoid this as much as possible. But we recognize the fact that sometimes doing a private placement might be useful and might be helpful for the stock as well in terms of valuation, but we don't foresee doing a private placement short term.
Yeah, and that could actually, you're right, it could actually set off a domino effect that hurts you more than helps you at the end of the day.
Especially today with the 24-cent stock. It's
and trust me when I tell you, Francis, if you did it, some people, maybe this investor, you at me, would be happy about it. Other investors say, well, there's Francis, he was waiting to be predatory and take advantage of a low share price and do a private placement. Sometimes investors, we don't always know what we want sometimes. And then they went on to ask about financing, but we've talked about that in very deeply. So we'll move on. Borman, a lot of good questions. The deferred salary, we've kind of talked about that. Why can't the deferred salary be paid in cash once a company's EBITDA positive rather than in shares? Maybe that would be an interesting question to answer there.
Yeah, actually, to answer, I already answered it. It's on the table. I propose to have my deferred salary paid in cash or paid in shares, or I don't care at this point. Okay, so it's just an offering. It's on the table, and the decision has not been yet made. But why it could be a positive answer to give to Borman as well. So yes, I take the suggestion, and we'll take the lead to see if that could be possible. But because the goal here is for the company to succeed, we've not only taken deferred salary, we've also invested our own money into some expenses that has been paid. Myself and David Parson, the CTO, has done a lot of payment to. I'm using my personal credit card, George, for the company.
Guys, that sounds easy to everybody at home. I'm an entrepreneur. I know what it's like.
I'm the one at risk. I'm the one at risk.
Personal money down.
Exactly. So down the line, I will not take any benefit that no others will have. We will wait for the large material news to get to fruition before we do any moves. But I take the point here. By
the way, if I was on your board, and I'm sure other board members feel the same way, that answer comes down to your consideration would almost be the last we would discuss if I was a board member. I would say, hey guys, can we use this cash for something better for our company? That's what it really comes down to, right? Do you issue cash because you have an abundance of it, or do you issue shares because saying we can use that piggy bank and do more with it? So that's what. And I do want to correct, not correct, but I do want to add. Borman asked, salaries aren't normally paid in shares, so why is it set up this way? I'm going to disagree with that. Again, being in this industry for 25 years, I've known a lot of CEOs who deferred salary and when everything turned out okay, took stock. It's pretty commonplace.
Yeah.
And I think personally, CEOs don't get enough credit for holding everything together, deferring salary, because Borman and everybody, one thing we all got to remember is CEOs are people too. They have homes, they have bills, they have educations to pay, they have things to pay for. So we can't always criticize them for deferring salary, thinking they're doing it in order to take advantage of something. 95% of the time they do it if they're doing for the best of everybody and they're the last resort. And to me, Francis, when I see that, that speaks volumes. Because if I didn't believe in ABC widgets, I wouldn't defer my salary. I'd say, guys, I haven't been paid for the first couple of months. If I don't get paid, I'm moving on because I may not believe in the company. So when you defer and potentially take stock, I think that's all on the table, and that's just fine.
Yeah.
Son of a Bach. I like that. I like that name. First question is talk about deferred salary. So obviously, and shares. So that's been addressed, but thank you for asking it. And then the second one again talks about no officers have purchased any shares on the open market, and you've already addressed that you don't want to be doing that.
I can't speak for the board members, George. We've made the suggestion, but the management has been really committed. So if you look at all management, myself, Jim, the CFO, David, the CTO, and Denis Lambert, VP Business Development, everybody has been fully committed. Denis didn't give away much, but he invested. So you can see this. So Denis have invested. You can see his SEDI reporting. So we're completely committed to this. But look, I can't buy shares on one hand and have a deferred salary on the other end. So you're talking about human. My bank account is not endless, right? So there's that much I can do.
One
so,
or the other. You're deferring your
so
salary,
that's it.
or you're buying open market. You're getting paid. It can't be both.
And you don't know what are the reasons for others not to take advantage of the current stock price. So that's their decision. So not mine.
Yeah, if I was sitting on your board, given everything that's going on and so many moving parts, I probably wouldn't buy open market myself because I would not want to run into any scrutiny that, because sooner or later these things are going to get done. And I wouldn't want to be open to scrutiny that someone says, oh, well, George bought stock in August, and then something happens September. And then, there's so many moving parts here where anything can pop that I wouldn't take that chance. So everyone's got to remember that you don't want scrutiny when things are so close to being done.
Exact. And that's another critical point. If I buy shares today, and for whatever reason, we close EIB tomorrow ahead of time, because I don't know, they wake up and they say, okay, Francis, we're good to go. We're pleased. That's it. Board has decided to sign right away. So let's go. And I bought 100K shares yesterday. I'm done.
Now you got a whole hornet's nest of issues. I would be in blackout. I wouldn't be buying anything in the open market. So you can't blame. I don't think the share. Again, just my 2 cents to everybody. You can't blame the board and officers for not putting themselves in potentially a really bad spot, and it's better just to stay clear and let this all happen.
I think that's the main reason behind, plus the fact that we're all invested on the other end in some other way. So that was the reason also to put that in the news release, because we've heard this question many times. Why aren't you guys not investing? No, sorry, man. I invested over $200,000 in the last 12 months of my own personal money.
Yeah, it's not endless.
That's it.
It's not endless.
That's it.
We don't have you there as the last resort. We have you there to get the deals done and to build the business at the end.
And George, this is negative, but this is not negative. This is positive. This is our belief that this thing is going to fly. Why would David Parsons spend $60,000 of his own money to support our system integrator partner in China that was working on XG, if it was that the company will go bankrupt? No, we know that we are going to be a successful company, and that's why the people are committed. and David is one of them, myself too, and Jim, all this deferred salary. So it's positive. It's really positive for the company, and we just bid on the future growth of the company. So if we can have shares without having any advantages to anybody, then why not?
I'll tell
We'll
you right
see.
now, I call it Pimwimmy, put your money where your mouth is. When officers of a company
Yeah.
lay their own cash down to get things done, they deserve whatever druthers they get from that, whatever benefit they get. So I think you can't ask anything more. You can't of the company.
Yeah.
This next question, last question from
You
son
take
of a
it or I
Bach
take it.
is, what's that?
You take it or I take it.
Well, I don't, the question's for you first. This is the third attempt at you using a promo site. I don't know if we're a promo site, but what makes this time different than the other two?
I don't know. What I do know is that George and I come along pretty well together. The platform I love. I like the fact that there's a platform to discuss directly with the shareholder. I've been answering on a timely matter, not every day, of course. I have other things to do, but it's an open. We can have open discussion in there, and the rest is just serious to me. Whereas the two others, what happened with the two others? One we can talk about is Jack in the US. By the way, the guy was on CSC, BCSC investigation. That's why we walked away from them, unfortunately.
Very smart.
And but it's funny because the guy was sending a Twitter on NuRan that our stock went 75% down because they walked away from their stuff, which is completely opposite. I don't see a lot of
Jack has a
Canadian.
different way of thinking. It's not what you want with a serious company like NuRan, that's for sure.
Yeah, you know what? Every promo has a meaning behind it. So I think we want to jump into, we are a serious company. We have a fantastic business model to present, and not only something on paper that we will probably extract minerals at some point after digging 1,000 holes in DRC. We have contracts, we have financing partners, we have installation partner, we have equipment partner with whom we have dealt with. So this company is about to kick off, and the financing is key to that. And we are working extensively on this piece. So why would this promo work this time? Because it will sit on future news that will be kicking in, that will be extremely material to change the image of the company moving forward.
And I'll add in, I think investors have seen two things. Naturally, it applies to us, so I'll make it very quick. The first thing everyone has seen is the engagement with management shareholders. There's nobody else who has verified forums, so we can have civilized, tough. Look, a lot of questions here have been tough, Francis. These aren't cheerleading questions being thrown at you. They're not cheerleading questions on site, but there is no other vehicle that does that. That's number one. Two, look at this video. You know, very tough questions. We're having very frank discussion, but that leads to a great marriage. That's what you need between shareholders and management, that there's trust, open, transparency, and engagement. And then once everything really starts to hit on the business side, AGORACOM's reach is just almost incomparable. A lot of great sites out there, a lot of good companies out there, but they're very specific to one thing. AGORACOM does everything on all the platforms. So when NuRan really is ready to move forward with the story and everything's put a bow on it, you guys are going to see some really amazing stuff out there. Mother Brenda asks, what's the valuation you're seeking for the subsidiary investment? I'm not sure if you can talk about that or not.
I answered it a little bit sooner, but if you want to make some math, similar company to us, but they do not do the active equipment, are tower companies. I can give you like IHS Tower and Helios Towers. They're publicly traded company. You can look at their numbers and what EBITDA multiple they are trading at today, and based on the financial outlook we gave you, what kind of valuation we should be trading at. But for the subsidiary, it's a different story. Those are private equity investors, and we have of course comparables, because we have competitors that have raised equity. and they've done it at a valuation which is over $100 million. So will we be able to achieve that? I don't know. We are earlier stage than this competitor, so we don't have the same level of revenue as we speak. A lot of a huge backlog to deliver and a huge pipeline to fulfill. But bottom line, I think that the company valuation will be way higher than the 8 million we see on the the Canadian stock market today.
Yeah, no, but
But
look,
by the way,
Warren
George,
Buffett. Warren Buffett built the greatest stock portfolio in the history by buying underpriced assets, underpriced companies, right?
yeah,
So underpriced means opportunity. And by the way, that's not financial advice. I'm not saying you got to go and buy NuRan because I'm not allowed to give financial advice. But just remember, low share price doesn't mean things are going bad. Low share price sometimes means the market hasn't yet appreciated what a company has to offer. What's the profit margin per tower for NuRan Canada when selling equipment to NuRan Africa?
so to be honest, I would like to figure out what the question is really. Look, when the gross profit from a tower operation is around 75%. So when you have the tower built, the revenue generated minus the operation costs, which are mainly satellite maintenance, lease fee, and so on and so forth, you were usually generating 75% gross margin from the tower operation. But I don't see the point of NuRan Canada versus selling equipment in NuRan Africa. The thing we do though is because NuRan is organized in a, let's call it a franchise way. So we have our subsidiary, and NuRan Canada supplies equipment to the subsidiaries. We do it at a pre-established transfer price between the entities that has been cross-checked with our DFI partners, namely EIB. And we usually sell at a similar price that we would sell to anybody else. And the margin is around, for those products, above 50% margin. And we also sell the services for managing the network operating center and a lot of other services. So the cross charge between NuRan Canada and NuRan Africa is going to be subject of a full video that we will produce on our side to explain the flow of money between the entity for people to be able to picture how NuRan Canada can get his piece of the cake and how to envision how the money flows within the company.
Last question. You mentioned a factoring arrangement recently. Can you please elaborate on this and how it will be structured?
By the way, it's subject to, it's one of the 3 deals with whom we are that we are managing right now. The terms of this factoring agreement will be disclosed quite soon, so I'm not allowed to discuss about this. But we decided to go in a factoring arrangement to avoid those maturity date, providing us the ability to repay this loan as we go, and giving us the ability to get additional money from this factoring agreement. We happen to do cross charges between NuRan Canada and NuRan Africa, and what we are factoring are those invoices that we charge our NuRan African operation. So this factoring agreement is going to support those charges. We have over $15 million already cross charge between NuRan Canada and the different subsidiaries, and we're using part of it because the other part is used as equity for the EIB loan agreement. And this is something that we've disclosed already in previous videos and news release.
Big thanks to Hop. Hop put together a really great summary, broke it down into the themes: financial, management compensation, management credibility, operations, and then put nice bullet points underneath each one. Great summary, because they asked, hope the summary helps. Enjoy your weekend. It did help. It was awesome. Francis, look, we've gone 55 minutes and it's flown by, but great questions, really amazing answers. I'm proud to be part of this story. When I hear the questions, how deep they are, when I hear the answer from you, I don't pick, I pick up nothing but just great great integrity and a great drive to get this done. Last word to you as just a wrap there on all this, on this Q&A, our first ever Q&A, one of many more, by the way.
Look, the conclusion is we're just about to turn a corner here, George. So stay with us. I think the NuRan is not only a story, it's reality. We just need to knock the last piece on the head. Should it be EIB and the FI2 loan agreement or other financing? But once the financing is in place, we're going to go for big numbers. So stick with us. I think it's worth having a shot at NuRan today on the stock. Support us, and you will get some nice return in the future. Sorry for the last couple of years of decline, but once we have this in place, it should go back up, and we will probably try to surpass the CSE index where the curve is exactly as the same as the declination of NuRan stock. Yep. But let's beat it up while we are going back up. So last piece missing is this financing, not only EIB, but financing in general. Once we have the money in the bank account, we have the contracts, we have the operation team to deliver. Everything is in place for us to succeed.
Francis, it's Tuesday, so you got about another 80 hours a week to do this week on behalf of NuRan and all shareholders. But I think I speak on behalf of the overwhelming majority where I say, look, you put the company right there. It's right on the start line of something fantastic. And we all wish you great success, because I know the things I do, and they're not nearly as complicated by a factor of 5 on what you do. So I appreciate what you're doing, what you're going through, and how you're pushing to get it over the finish line. But all big things, this is what happens behind the scenes. So good luck, my friend. Good luck. Most of us vacationing in August. You're going, to the wall, and we thank you for that.
Thank you, George. Have a nice day.
Same to you.
Okay, bye.
Hey guys, the video's over, but don't forget to help your company by liking it and even leaving a comment below. And then don't forget to help yourself by subscribing to our YouTube channel so you never miss another great AGORACOM small cap video.